All right, hey mamas, welcome to another episode of the Mama Mindset. We're here to just help moms everywhere. We have the goal of talking to 1,000 moms. So if you want to be one of those 1,000 moms, go ahead and reach out to me on social media or shoot me an email. But today we have a guest by the name of Ashley Cacho, and she is here to tell her story and her journey. And we're gonna learn so much about her. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Ashley. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, appreciate it. So let's get right into it. And why don't we just start off with, how many kids do you have or kids, boy, girls, give us a rundown.
Yes, I have one sweet baby girl, and she will be 3 this year in March.
Gotcha. Three. Interesting. That's an interesting time. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. So why don't we back it up a little bit and talk about your pregnancy journey? Maybe even like how did you find out you were pregnant? Was it planned? Was it not planned? Like start us from the beginning and then we'll work our way up to where we're at now.
Yes, so a little bit after the pandemic, so my family is originally from Belize. So after the pandemic, I was going through a lot of like mental health issues, like struggling a lot. So I went back to Belize to kind of just like, relax and get away from, just all the stress of like, life and the pandemic. And I just rekindled things with like my hometown sweetheart, and we planned the pregnancy. It was just one of those like in love and just want to have a baby. The pandemic kind of made everyone just, I feel like there was a lot of pandemic babies. So I had a pandemic baby and it was planned. So I knew like right away, like, oh, okay. When it was time, I was checking and constantly checking. Yeah, I found out. And then in the moment, I was just like super happy. I mean, I've always wanted to be a mom, and it was just the time had come. So that was how I found out.
Gotcha. Okay, so we had a pandemic baby where it was planned, and as far as the pregnancy, like what was your experience like with that?
The pregnancy was really good. Honestly, I didn't have any like complications or anything. I was always on the beach, so I had like really good scenery. I was eating really good food. Yeah, I was kind of spoiled during my pregnancy because I was just really able to kind of kick up. I did come back to the US because I wanted to have my baby in the US. I mean, I was born in the US as well. And so when I got here, it did get a little bit stressful. A little bit of like the most worst part about it was just like the fatigue or like feeling sick, like the sickness and just like needing to get my rest. But honestly, I had a really good experience like pregnancy. Like I loved my belly, like I loved people's reaction. I like, you get a lot of attention, so that was really nice.
I'm glad that you had a good experience. If I have to grade mine, I'm good. Let's put it that way. Like I'm good. I was sick the whole first trimester. And second trimester was better, right? And then third trimester, I
Mhm.
was over it completely. So, yeah, I wouldn't describe it. I would probably give it a C. Like, okay, I made it through
I
it.
see.
Yeah, not like I was good. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed the experience. Nah. But everybody's
yeah,
different.
yeah, no, for sure.
I'm glad you actually enjoyed it. Okay, so we get time for the birth, right? Was she on time as far as like did she make it the full term? Was there any complications?
Yeah, she was full term, but I did have a C-section. They were like, I guess I wasn't like dilating enough, and it was time for her to come, so I did have an emergency C-section, which was super scary. That was like super scary. I mean, the whole hospital, I mean, I feel like after the process happened, I was like okay, but during the process, it did feel like, oh my, am I gonna make it through this? It was just kind of one of those things like you're just like, whoa, this is a lot.
Mm.
And I felt that, but I was grateful because at the time I had my husband and my mom there, so I was just like, okay, like God got me, like I'm a big believer, so I just was like breathing through the process and
Hmm.
just praying that she came safely, and she did.
Did they try to induce you? Because I know I wasn't dilating and I had to be induced by a balloon, which
Yeah, with like where they like kind of like they have to go in and like I think had to like pop my water bag kind of thing.
So they pop my water after. So they induced me,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah, the first before.
Yeah, they induced me and they stuck a balloon, which is like it's like literally like two balloons and it's on a string and they stick it up your vajayjay
Oh
and
my God.
it was like somebody killed me. That's the best way to describe it. And no painkillers, no Tylenol.
No.
That's what you have, and they could torture people like that if they wanted to. That was
You didn't do the epidural?
well, I could have. So here's the thing, right? If I would have done the epidural, then I would have been non-moving, right? And the whole point of being induced with the balloon is so you can walk around, so you can try to dilate. So if I would have did it, so it could have worked, right? But it more than likely wouldn't have done what it needed to do, and then I would have been headed towards the C-section, right? So I
Wow.
personally didn't want to have a C-section. So I had two choices. I could
Okay.
either be induced by a balloon, right? Or I could take a pill. Now, the problem with the pill is they can't control the intensity of the pill. So I would not have known like how much the pain was, and it's the same thing, no painkillers, right? But they can't control it. So at least with the balloon, if it was too intense, they could have taken it out, right?
Right.
That's great in theory. But what ends up happening, it's not the when it's inside, it's the it getting it in. That's the crazy part.
Right.
I was screaming at the top of my lungs for my mom, and my mom was right there holding my hands. My mom said my eyes rolled to the back of my head. Yes.
That's horrible. Like
Or,
that's you're like, no, cut it. This is it. Like do you not plan on having another one?
nah, I'm good. Not for me. We might do surrogate or adoption, but
She
me,
said,
I'm
no,
good.
I'm good. Yeah,
I'm for sure good because it's not like okay if they would have told me I had to do a C-section it's not that big of a deal, right? Like I would have did it, but like my preference because of the recovery time I was told that it's longer with a C-section. My preference was to try to have as natural of a birth as possible, right? So I ended up doing the being induced, and then I walked around with a balloon inside of me for about 8 hours, which is insane, right? Because you're having contractions, like all that is going on. And then I dilated enough. They said that I could take the epidural. I took the epidural. Then 2 hours later, I was at where I needed to be at, and then I pushed. And like by the time all that happened, I didn't feel nothing because the balloon was so intense that there was gonna be nothing more painful than that. So yeah.
that's insane. I, hats off because
So let's get into the C-section. You have a C-section. What was your recovery like?
it was pretty horrible. Like the first day, um, I just remember like feeling like I was cut in half. I was just like, it was so hard to get up and go to the restroom. And then like they weren't feeding me. I was just like, I was getting like angry. The pain is, yeah, the pain is pretty bad. But I tried to just rest because like I didn't want to like force myself to have to like I understood what was happening down there, so I was like I'm just gonna lay here until I get the strength, you know what I mean? And then I just kind of pushed through it like I do everything else. Like after getting home and stuff, I took it pretty easy. I mean, I feel like having the baby in my hand, the pain, I was just like I have my baby, I'm good. And like it was totally worth it. But the C-section it was very hard after.
Yeah, that I can imagine. I totally can imagine that. Did you choose to breastfeed or like what was your journey like as far as feeding?
So I started with breastfeeding and it was just horrible. It was horrible. Like I love the natural girlies. I love like I'm gonna give my baby this. I love all of that. But like realistically, I'm not that girl. Like I was just like bottles and I wasn't even getting out the bed. I was making the baby daddy get out the bed and he was making all the bottles. Like yeah, I tried. Like I tried. But it was like she wasn't
You know,
latching, my
it's
boobs were hurting, and I was just like, you
yeah,
know,
it's I so for me, my baby's 100% breastfed. Now, mind you, I was on I'm gonna try, right? I was on the same thing. We're gonna start off doing this, and it just ended up working out. I didn't have the pain that what some people experience. Like it hurt because what they don't tell you is that your stomach is actually contracting, like it like which is crazy to know that, right? Like, why am I having contractions and the baby's not in me? So
Right.
every time you're breastfeeding, your stomach is contracting, and so you're feeling that contraction pain. Some people have like the nipple pain. I didn't really have a lot of the nipple pain, so it ended up working out. But here we are now, right? 4 months, and so my baby refuses to take a bottle. So what that means is that she has to be by me, and nobody can watch her when I'm not there because she needs to eat about every hour and a half. She comes to me to breastfeed, except when she's sleeping. So yeah, it's a thing for sure. It's been
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love the benefits of breastfeeding, right? I love the benefits of what it does for their health. That's why I did it in the first place. Like, I'm one of those people. I'm not gonna say I'm a natural girly, but what I can say is like I'm a health freak, right? So I want to try to do the healthiest option if I can. Now, if I couldn't have done it, then I would have pivoted and we would went into like some type of organic formula or whatever, right? So that's why I'm always like, no judgment. You do what works for you. But like, if it's up to me, I'm gonna try to do the healthiest thing. Now, unfortunately, that was probably to my detriment now because she's not taking a bottle. Oh, nobody can watch her, and I'm glued to a baby 24/7. So it's just like, all right, you want to breastfeed, you got one or get out the other.
I've seen that too. I've seen other moms where like the baby's like getting big and they just will not get off the nipple and it's so hard to get them off the nipple and I'm like, yeah, I don't want those problems.
I So we were supposed to introduce the bottle like 2 weeks in, but that's not something that happened. So my boyfriend, he's a survivor of epilepsy, right? So like, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a random seizure disorder. It means that you can have a seizure anytime. So he's doing really good about it. He's about to hit 1 year without a seizure. So we're in a much different place, which is great and it's a blessing. However, what that means is that for us, right, when it comes to how we move, we have chosen to put like my daughter's safety first. So that means a lot of the physicality of things, like picking her up, right, transferring her from room to room, even things down to like, you just walk in the room and pick the baby up, right? Like, that's not
Yeah.
something that he can do because that there's a risk that if he seizes, right, that's going to be, she's only 4 months, like that could lead to some type of an injury, right? So what that meant for us is that in our relationship, and also his triggers for seizures is sleep. Well, you shouldn't have a newborn, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Tough.
problem. So I've been doing the night shifts, like all of these things, right? Kind of land on me at for now, and as she gets bigger, right, he'll be able to do more. Point is, it didn't make sense for us to introduce a bottle because he wasn't going to be able to bottle feed her because I was going to have to be up, right, regardless. So we wasn't thinking about
Right.
that. If I can go back to the 2 week mark, I would have introduced him giving her a bottle in front of me regardless, right? So we wouldn't be in the situation where we're 4 months in and now my mom and my dad, we have to be there in order for them to babysit. So, I mean, this is the whole thing about like parenting. So I would just say, like, for first time moms, you make your plan, right? You execute your plan to the best of your ability, but there's the plan that we make, and then there's our kid. Like, and
Yep.
once you have your kid, it's gonna move however it's going to move.
Exactly.
That brings me to like my other point. Where's I always say one of my favorite sayings is like, drop your pride, build your tribe, right? Like, so like you have to build your tribe. I learned very early on that the game plan that I had in my head, you can call me Little Miss Independent, right? Like, I'm very used to like, I'm boss chick, I make
Yeah.
movies, right? The game plan that I had in my head was not about to work when I had my daughter. We were going to have to adapt. So very early on, I realized, okay, I'm gonna need help. I remember one time I was like, yeah, I'm gonna need my mom to be here, and she stayed with us for like 2 3 weeks, and even still to this day, she's helping us like 2 3 weeks, 2 3 days out the week. So do you have a time where you were like, you know what, I need to drop my pride and I need to call somebody for help? Do you have a story you can tell us about?
Absolutely. So I had to go back to work almost like immediately, kind of when after having the baby. And so my husband's mom came from Belize to stay with us. And I know like the stories of like mother-in-laws always kind of seem a little rough, but it was very beautiful for the first but like when the baby was just born, I'm not gonna lie, like she was there for me, for us, for the baby. And I honestly could not have done it without her. Like people don't understand that you do need help, like especially with a newborn, like it's a lot. A lot of people aren't afforded the luxury to stay home with their child. Like some of us have to go back to work right away. And that was my situation. And I was just grateful to have like his mother there. You know, she's a mother of five. So it came really natural to her. I learned a lot. And I also had like my mom lives here, but she works a lot as well. So, you know, she was in and out, but it was mostly my mother in law. And that was like in the very beginning stages. And now in this stage where my baby's like around three, my brother, we're very close. He has a 3 year old as well. So we help each other out. So he's part of my huge part of my tribe because I also work a lot in school. I have a lot going on. So like it's just I don't know, like I'm very big on family and I'm very big on just like creating space for everyone to like grow together. And so I don't know, like the tribe part is a crazy part because you can't do it without them.
I totally agree. I think sometimes we have to get out of our way, and if the ultimate goal is to, to have the best interest for the child, then like we just like what do we I got to the point where I was like, okay, why am I harping on I have to do this by myself? Like why am I here? Like this is dumb.
Right.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
If somebody's willing to help, like let's take the help. Let's bring them on in
Yeah.
and let's take
Yeah.
that because it was very much a me thing, right? And that to a certain extent it served me in when it was just me and my boyfriend, right? It serves me and my goals to take on challenges and all that. It doesn't serve Sky for me to
Right.
just overwhelm myself for what. And even
Yeah.
still now we're 4 months in and we're still evaluating like, okay,
Oh yeah.
do I need to pivot? Like, how can we get more help? What's gonna
Yeah.
make the most sense?
It's all changes as they like develop and obviously like as they gain more skills, you know, because your baby's very young, like it's gonna change drastically, but for the better, you know what I'm saying? Because you have to remember, like, you're raising a little human being, and your little human being is not gonna be like every other human being. They're gonna be your human being. So it's like you're gonna be pivoting, changing, you're gonna have all these ideas, you're gonna want to do all this stuff, and you just pray and hope that, like, you know, other people around you see the good in it too and want to contribute.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. It's so interesting what you learn. Okay, so you talked about, C-section, this kind of transition. You did have, a nice tribe around you to help. Did you experience any sense of postpartum? And if so, like how did that show up for you?
Yes. The postpartum that I experienced was the fact that, like, oh, this is a real human being depending on, like, I know that we think about it like, oh, my baby, but no, like, it hit you like, oh no, like I'm responsible. God, and so and I suffered with a lot of anxiety. Like I didn't want people taking her. Like I didn't want her like on the street. Like I don't want like I wanted her at home, you know, because like it just was safe for me. Like I wasn't ready, and I felt like I dealt with some like just a very high anxiety because I was away from home, and then just kind of like a little bit of a depression just because it was like, well, it's not about me anymore. Like I have another life that is depending on my actions and my choices. And so, not to say that that's a sad thing, but it just felt kind of sad. Like, you know, just like a part of you gone now. Like that,
Hmm.
the old me, the old non mom is gone. I'm a mom now, and that's not gonna change.
Nope. there's I be telling I was like, there's no days off in motherhood. There's no days off. There's 0 days off. It don't matter if we quote unquote sleep in. It doesn't matter. It's like that's it. Um, I guess for me, how it showed up and how it's continuing to show up is I feel like, well, I can relate to, let me back up. I can relate to not wanting anybody to touch the kid. I was a
Mhm.
germaphobe before, but now I'm like, I'm a hell no. You guys coming over, except if it's like my parents or people we know for a fact like work from home and aren't outside, right? Other than that, like you wear a mask and we're putting this birth cloth down, like, and
Yeah.
one is it's only like the immediate family members. Other than that, y'all gonna have to wait till the 6 month mark because I don't want to deal with a sick baby. Like I'm not doing that. So it's definitely shown up in that way for me. Beyond that, I think my anxiousness about her safety is like it's probably outrageous to like the average person, but like to me, it's like, yeah, no, I'm not playing about like her being safe. And it shows up in ways, and I'll give you a little bit more context. So mind you, I'm somebody who a previous relationship, I dealt with domestic violence. It ended up turning into a situation where it was stalking, and that person was sentenced to felony stalking me, and that person just recently got out of prison for this, right? So it's a very real situation, like as far as me being concerned. It was my safety, which was less of a concern now that, me and my boyfriend have been together for some time. We have a different residence than where I was at, right? But that's like a us thing. And then you throw in the element of
Right.
like my daughter, right? And so we haven't really posted her on social media, like all types of precautions that we've been taking, because there's this other element that I have had to experience, and I don't know how or if it's going to show up. Like I literally I've been granted a 10-year restraining order because of that. So I know, like for me, postpartum has shown up like in like it I think it intensifies these emotions that I probably would have had regardless if I had postpartum or not, but it's just like 10 times more intense. And
Right.
I've felt that before, just off of dealing with like anxiety before, right? Because of this experience, I had PTSD. I had to literally go through reprogramming of my brain. I couldn't even say this person's name, like flat out. I had to go have like 6 to 12 months of therapy so I could say this person's name and not have an association that I had with it. I did ERMD. So all types of stuff, right, that I had previous experience for. So when we throw in the postpartum mix into it, it just like ramps it up to the point where you're like, oh, okay. I think though, because I have all these tools after going to therapy, though, what has helped me is I'm able to catch it, right? I'm able to use my tools and then be like, okay, let me take a breather. I think I'm feeling something right now. Let me evaluate how I feel 30 minutes from now, an hour from now, and I'm able to kind of walk myself down the situation. But like that, I think maybe gets better with time. I would say it was way more intense like after the birth, right, than what it is now. 4 months from now, like now I'm 4 months removed from having her. I feel a lot more comfortable now than I did when it first happened. So I didn't I guess I didn't foresee it being this intense, right? I didn't foresee it being this intense, but at the same time, like I'm sure there's women who have even more postpartum than this. There's women who've like or depressed or like suicidal, because like you said, it's a total life change. Like to be quote unquote little Miss Independent prior, right? The second that baby
Yeah.
comes out, you're not on your own time. You're now on
Yeah.
a baby's time. Your whole life is based off of what the baby needs. And that, like you said, it's a drastic change in our lives. And like, how do we recoup from that? How do we move forward knowing that it's never going to be the same? And I don't necessarily, that's why I like talking to people. I don't necessarily have the answer for that, but I want to know that is you're 3 years in, right? Like, do you feel like there's a new sense of normal? Like, it's kind of balanced out? Do you feel like you have more of yourself back than when it first happened?
Absolutely, 1,000%. I feel like the older she's getting, the more I'm able to relax a little bit more, and the more I'm able to just like become a norm. Like I have a human being, like I have a child. And it's also, it's very good because you watch them change and grow, and you also notice that you have to change and you have to grow. So I love that part about it because like I see her and I'm just like, oh, she's so amazing. She's so amazing. But then it also reflects back on me. I'm like, I'm amazing too. Like, oh, I'm growing too. Like, oh, I'm changing too. So I love that because it doesn't make you feel like, oh, like you just go back to just like kind of, sometimes we get older and we're just like, ah, well, got a job, got this, and like I'm stuck here. But like, no, we're evolving too. We're not children, but we're still evolving. So she's that for me, like a reflection to me. And I'm always reaching. I'm very ambitious as well. I have a lot going on, a lot of goals, a lot of dreams. So I'm always like trying to recreate our lives together. Like, not only am I doing something with myself, but I'm helping her do something with herself so that she's in touch with who she is and she knows that she has all these things to turn to and to look to and to create.
Gotcha.
So
You
that
know,
part
I
is
love that. I
that
love
part is
that you're
really good. It
getting
feels
your
good now
new
because now I'm
sense of
not like in
normal
the,
and like
oh,
you feel
oh,
like
like worry,
I
worry, worry,
guess you
worry.
know Michelle Obama says becoming, right? Like you're in the process of becoming and thriving. So let's get into like some of the stuff you have going on. What are some of your goals for 2025 and beyond,
Yeah.
right? And how have you been juggling those goals and motherhood?
So, okay, where do I start? So I mean, so I'll start with the fact that like since I was a little girl, my biggest dream was to be an actress. Like I'm when I moved to LA, I did some acting, did all of that. But I've always been a hustler. I've always worked. I've had a job since I was 15, right? After having my baby and after kind of building myself back up after the pandemic and just after the baby, I cocktail, so I'm a cocktail server on the Las Vegas Strip, but I also still study acting and film and wanting to jump back into the film industry and get back on my auditions and things like that. And at the same time, I'm also a small business owner, so I'm opening and developing a cleaning company here in Las Vegas. So just a couple of side hustles while I reach my biggest goal, you know what I mean? But I also like I want to be able to create those passive incomes so that I can like free myself up because you know you can't really do things without being stable. You know, my first priority is being
If
stable and
anything, I
making
feel like
sure
I
that you
understand
know
that for
my
sure.
baby is supported and taken care of and you know my bills and things like that as I at the same time still reach for my bigger goals. So, yeah.
Love that. I mean, I can be a testimony as far as being in film just as a director, and we'll talk on that after the show. But I understand like having it, you know what it really boils down to now is just you when you're a mom, like bills need to be paid. We need to have a roof over our head, right? And although we have partners or move from different partners, whatever the situation is, like I feel like as a parent, it's our own individual responsibility to make sure that our kids are good. So what that looks like for different people is different. And so I get it. For me, you got to have multiple sources of income. I love
Yeah.
that you said you your cleaning business. That's dope. That's something that's evergreen for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well as getting into acting and what that looks like. But before we get off of acting, if you had to say what type of roles that you want to play, like your dream roles, what does that look like?
So I have two dream roles. A dream role for me, some of my inspirations I would say is Angela Bassett, Kerry Washington. So I would love to play something deep, something dark, dramatic. I love Black history. I love Black women, and I want to portray like a very strong character, someone who's been through a lot, and someone who you know who pushes through. Because I feel like that reflects who I am. And then my other dream role is some type of assassin. Like I want to be a badass, like shoot up, kill everything. like like I've never like shot a gun, but I just want to learn. Like I want to do like martial arts. Like that's a goal of mine because I just recently got into fitness and I'm just like I love how it makes me feel. I feel empowered. I feel strong. And I feel like it's just a beautiful representation of who we are today as like you know young Black women and the things that we're going through, the things that we're battling, the things that we're dealing with. Because and I was telling my sister this too, who was dealing with some things, and I was just saying like, hey man, our parents didn't go through the things that they're not dealing with a lot of the things that we're dealing with today. So sometimes it's if you're being misunderstood by your parents or you want to be understood, it's okay to not be understood because they're not dealing with the pressures that we are dealing with today. And there's a lot going on, you know.
I feel like that's fair. I always say like making sure that if you're asking for advice or you're, bouncing ideas off of somebody, you want to do that with somebody who has similar experiences as you. And so like, I'll go to my parents. They've been married, I don't know, almost 40 years at this point. Yeah, right. So like marriage advice, right? Like, oh yeah, perfect, great, because they've seen like the ups and downs and stuff, right? All right, social media advice, I probably have a little bit more social media experience than they do. So I do think it's definitely important to, understand your audience. Like, who you're bouncing your ideas off of, who you're getting advice to. But I love that. No, I love that. And I can see you in those roles too. So,
Thank
hopefully I
you.
can be a part of your acting journey as well. Because the cool thing about talking to 1,000 moms is like, I should get some new mommy friends out of this, right? Like,
Right? Yeah, exactly.
that's kind of the point too, because I was like, I don't really have any mommy friends. I'm the first person out of my friend group that's pregnant, like, and had a kid, like, and all that. So I'm experiencing it. They're probably about, I'm gonna say, well, two of my friends are engaged, and so they'll probably be married. They're probably a year, 2 years out, and then I have one other friend who's pregnant right now, and so our daughters will end up being play buddies probably like 6 months or so, right? It'll start,
Right.
catching up. But other than that, I don't really have any mommy friends. So this is part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast. I was like, I need some mommy friends. Let me learn about what other moms are doing. So hopefully I can add you to my mommy friend group for sure.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like when I seen your post on Thread, I was like, yo, someone cares. Like we're out here. Like, because, and I responded because I feel like being a mom means so much to me. It has literally changed my life. Like, it has really changed me. And I'm just like blessed. I know that there are women out there who want to be moms that I don't have the ability to be moms. I just know how much of a blessing it is. You know what I'm saying? And it's work. It's work. It's work. I know everyone wants to think it's like so glamorous, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of pressure, but it's totally worth it.
No, I feel you. Yeah, cuz like for me, like I said, like those first 2 weeks, I was like, "Yo, what the F is this? Like what's going on? Why is this so difficult? Who nobody told me." And it's like somebody did tell you, but it just didn't land on you. You know, it's like and it's like, "Yo, so moms have been doing this." And then I was like, if I'm experiencing this and like I have a boyfriend and I have a mom who's like I can imagine what like being a single mom might feel like. I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is a crazy experience. I need to be smart, just like I was smart and I surrounded myself with other filmmakers who already did it. I was like, let me be smart. Let me surround myself with other moms so I can
Yeah.
not feel like my head is blowing up. And that's really what this space is for. Like you said, somebody does care. I do care. Being a mom I'm only 4 months in and it's drastically changed my mind. Like, it's
Right.
drastically changed my life. Like, I don't even think the same way. So, I feel like the more that we can feel and be seen, right, and support each other, like the better it is. Like you said, there's people who would die to be a mom. Like they're trying to do everything to become mom. There are people who are. I think about. I'll be 30 this year. I can imagine if I was a teen. Can you imagine being a teen, like, and going through that process and like who's there to like tell them, hey, you could figure this out, or these are things, who's giving those people tips? I'm like, this could be a platform for those people as well. Like, okay, I listened to the mama mindset and I got this gym from her or whatever. I'm trying to, help as many moms as we possibly can moving forward. So we briefly touched on it, right? But so you mentioned to me that you were separated, and so I just wanted to know, like, as far as the dynamics of how that affected you, how has that affected you as a mom, and the stage of where you're at in motherhood?
Absolutely. I feel like as a mother, naturally, you want to protect your children. You want to protect, you have like this natural, like, I'm a Leo, by the way, so I'm very like, rawr, and I feel like my instincts are very good. Like even just being separated, I didn't want that. That's not what I want. I didn't want that at all. But in life, sometimes people they're not fully aware or fully healed with themselves or doing the work with themselves in order to like realize what they have and like what's going on, right? We're all dealing with things. But I had to make a choice for myself and for my daughter to separate so that the father of my daughter could go take care of himself. You know what I mean? And that was the hardest thing for me because it took time. It took time. It wasn't just right away. It was like I didn't want it to happen.
Hmm.
And in the end, it was the best because like I just feel at peace. I'm working 100 times harder and life is 100 times harder for me. But I see it as, you know what? I'm happier and I'm at peace. I grew up with a single mom. So, I'm not like pushing him out of her life, but it's more of like there's a standard that needs to be met. You know what I'm saying? And if you can't like come to that level, and it's work. I'm working. We're all working. We're all working trying to make a betterment of ourselves, and we can't be repeating the past and repeating the past of our parents or people, because I feel like I come from a lot of trauma, and he comes from a lot of trauma. And so it's like, but I feel like now that I like stepped away, and I feel like he's working harder to be a better father, which is the goal.
Yeah, that's always the goal, and we're rooting for him.
Right.
Let's we're rooting for him.
Exactly.
Ultimately, that's gonna be better for you guys as a child, is for both parents, right? To be in a place that's, you guys are striving to hit your goals, you guys are being a good example, and you guys are able to communicate effectively as parents. So definitely rooting for you and him on that tip. I'm sure it's probably, been a drastic change as far as like your adjustment to it. But I guess the question I would ask is this. You talked a little bit about, experiencing trauma like you did yourself. Do you feel like that may have played a role in your perspective, right, moving forward? So I'm just talking about like you saying, I identify this, I want to work on what I want to, work on myself too as well, right? So I can be a better version of myself. How has that shown up? Like, did you decide that you wanted to get in therapy? Is it something that you're aware of that you don't want to pass to your daughter?
Yes. So we tried therapy like together. We did the couples therapy, tried that, and it wasn't working, right? It wasn't working. So the way, yes, it did show up for me because I'm very aware of mental abuse, verbal abuse, and physical abuse. Like I experienced that growing up with aunts, moms, everybody, And I felt like I was just kind of like, I was that girl that was like, oh, no one would ever, no, ever, just no, ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, never take that. And then like here I am taking it. And so it's like, I'm like, it's like almost like kind of like I almost accidentally like had to go through that. Like I had to have that. Like not that I had to, but it was what's the word? It's like it was inevitable. I feel like it was almost inevitable for me to pick a man or be with a man or that had the same experience. And seeing it and experiencing it, I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. Like, I don't treat myself this way. Why would I let another person treat me this way? You know what I'm saying? And yes, you may be going through what you're going through and taking it out on me, but that's still not okay. It's still not okay. You have to work on yourself, and I'll work on myself too, because a problem that I had prior to was I'm just like, I didn't know much about boundaries. I always knew like, oh, you love someone, you give them your all, but that's not the case.
I think
Can't give people all.
no, you can't. I can relate to that 100%. I touched on my previous situation, and I'm not saying that yours was to the degree of that, but just the principle of having boundaries, I think, are very important, and it's important as moms that we stand on those boundaries, especially moms of daughters, right? So that we show them that when certain boundaries are placed, that's not what you want to accept for yourself. You don't show up like that for somebody else, so you should expect that the same person, respond to you in a healthy way. And so I applaud you for making that decision. I think it's the best decision for you and your daughter moving forward, and we'll be rooting in that space. So
Thank you.
I think it's a good segue for us to go into, what do you wish you would have known about being a mom that you know now?
Let's just say, let's see. I mean, I don't know, because I would say this. I grew up with two brothers, a single mom. My mom was always working. So guess who was lady of the house all the time? It was me. So like I've always had that innate sense of like taking care of people. I've always been that to my siblings as well. So like now, like if I can say like there's something I wish I knew. I mean, I guess I would look to my own mother, and I would say like, because I'm pretty hard on my own mother too. I know I am, and we have like a weird dynamic, but I would say like she's a person too. Like like regardless that you like people, the mom title is big. Big little title to wear, especially if you have more than one kid, you know. And I'm pretty hard on my mom because I just like, I don't know, I'm pretty hard on her because obviously your mom is the number one person you look to, especially as a woman, as a girl. You're like, mom, you know, who else am I gonna call? You know what I'm saying? So I just wish that now I'm like, okay, even though you're mom, I'm still Ashley. You know, even though my mom's a mom, she's still Lavonda, and I have to give her grace.
I wish I would have saw that before, if that makes any sense.
I
Now
think
that
you're a
I'm
little frozen.
Yeah, I might have froze for a second. You got me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. Now that I'm a mom, I see that like I don't know. I get the best way to describe it is as a kid, like a mom is like superhero to you. You know what I'm saying? It's like not. It's like it's a person, but you're not really thinking about mom like a person. She's mom. Like, what do you mean
Yeah,
you're mom? Like there's nothing you can't do, your mom. Like there's nothing you can't fix, your mom. Like your mom. And part of that, I see why part of that exists because now I see like because I see this guy like she comes to me to all the I come to me to all your problems. I fix your problems.
hmm
I'm hungry, I fix that. You're sleepy, I fix that. Like and so that just keeps repeating. And then you see in their own personal life, like for me, right? I saw my mom who was self-employed. She had a business that grossed over $1 million a year. So like this whole superhero complex to me was like doubled down like 100%. It was like my mom is from South Central LA. So you went from nothing, college graduate, qualified for the Olympics, then was in law enforcement, real estate, interior design, boom, boom, boom. Like I see you achieve every little thing. You're the ultimate executor, every little thing. So it's like there's nothing that you could do wrong. There's literally nothing that you could do wrong in my head. And then now that I'm older, I'm like, okay, this was highly unrealistic for
right,
for me for me to expect this on somebody. Like what? Like no. My mom was probably having tons of stress, you know, that I never even knew about, right? Like my mom, like
right.
when did my mom have time for herself? Like I'm thinking about this now as a mom. Like how do we expect these from these people? These people are just people. And I definitely think immediately within the first week of being a mom, my appreciation for my mom went shoop just way through the roof. So I could totally relate to that. Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's crazy.
So let me see. Let's see. What's a good another question that I got? What do you think was the most unexpected experience with motherhood?
Just how fast it's going. I see people with their kids and their kids are 18 getting tattoos and I'm like they were just a baby and then you have your baby and then like my baby is like talking back, she's like sassy, she's just telling you how she feels, she's like I'm just like what. Yes, it's going way too fast, like literally that is the craziest thing to me. 'Cause I'm like yo what is going way too fast for me, so I didn't
Yeah, see,
expect it
I'm
to
starting
last
to
a
feel
little bit longer, you know. You just think,
that's I'm starting to feel that now because like she's 4 months, she's rolling over, she's starting to sit up, she's like goo goo gaga to talk. I mean, she's not saying she don't know what she's saying. I don't know what she's saying, but she's saying it all day long. She's saying it. I'm like, man, you were just in the position where you were just like, you wasn't really moving that much 4 months ago, and now we're getting into it. She's trying to she's trying her damnness to crawl all day long. I'm like, wow, where did the time go? So I can imagine how I'm gonna feel at the 3 year stage where you're at. It's like, yeah, it's wild,
yeah.
super wild.
You're gonna love it though. You're gonna love it. You're gonna laugh a lot because they're gonna say the craziest things and then keep it so real with you. And you're just gonna be like, you know, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it because I love it right now. I'm just like, oh, she's just developing her personality, and you know, you try to tailor them a little bit, but they're gonna be them. Period.
I love that. If you could give a first time mom any tip, it could be something small, random gem that you would give. What would you say?
To just enjoy the moments. Don't stress yourself out too much about am I doing it right, wrong. Just seek help when help needed and to just enjoy motherhood. It's a beautiful thing. It's very such a blessing.
I find myself losing time when I'm with Sky. And this is the first for me. Like I've had so many big moments in my life. I can go back to like one of my biggest goals out of high school. It was well, I decided that I was going to chase after music, right? And I turned down multiple college scholarships for sports, and I went academic scholarship. I was like, I'm gonna rap, I'm gonna do all this thing. So within a year after that, I ended up on 106 in Park. I ended up touring around the US. Like all of this happened, like super big. And I remember watching my music video on 106 in Park, which if you guys aren't familiar, it was on BET. It was huge. It was like, if you're familiar with TRL, it's like it's the black version of TRL. That's what it boils down
Mhm.
to, right? For people who don't
Right.
know, everybody don't know. You might know, but everybody don't know, right? So that part, right? So the black version of TRL is it's big stuff, right? To have your music video on 102 had her want to Bar. What I remember about the moment, I remember it because it happened when I was at my freshman year, and we were at a dorm in my dorms, and like the whole dorm floor shut down because they knew I was gonna be on 106 Park. Everybody crowded into my dorm room, so I remember that moment and being frozen in time for those 2.5, maybe 3 minutes for that music video. And immediately after that video aired, I was thinking about, okay, so what do I need to do next? I need to do this tour. I need to like I didn't take in the moment of like what was happening. And there's several other moments in my life that I feel like I didn't take in the moment. But with Sky, I feel frozen in time. Like when we're singing Wheels on the Bus, well, I'm singing, she's listening, but whatever, right? When we're playing and we're singing and we're having these experiences, like time just freezes for me, and I'm really just taking in the moment like, wow, she's experiencing this for the first time and I get to experience this with her for the first time. And it's just like I could just be present, and I find myself being present with her, and I love that. So that's probably the tip that I would give a first time mom, even though I'm still a first time mom, but somebody who's just starting off, like, just be present. I think that's so important for sure.
Be present. Yeah, yeah, you definitely then the connection grows stronger that way. I feel like, you just have a connection and a bond with them that like when you're present, you're just like you're creating these moments that are unforgettable. You'll never forget these moments. And that's what we live for. We live for our memories. We live for, we live to have these moments and these experiences that make up who we are.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up here in a second, but I just wanted to open the floor to you. Anything that you wanted to ask me, or anything that you wanted to talk about, we can touch on.
Yeah, how do you stay balanced with all the great things that you're doing? How do you do you take time for meditation and like how do you take time for yourself as a super mom?
I'm not right now. I'm not. I do have a game plan to implement that, right? But like my time for myself right now is about 15 minutes. And somebody might not have 15 minutes. So I'm okay with my 15 minutes currently. And it is when I'm in the shower and he's washing her, because they'll play on the floor, they'll do floor time, right? For those 15 minutes, I'm like, I do not exist. Let me do my face routine. Let me be in the shower. Let me
Yeah.
just clear my mind like that. I do that. And then when I finally, go in and I get in the bed, right? I pray. I might take 5 to 10 minutes to watch some funny YouTube video I haven't seen. And then there's this app called I Am, and I do affirmations every single day on that app. So I try to work that in. So maybe about 30 minutes that I have to myself. That's not sustainable, and I know that. So the goal is hopefully by the 6 month mark, right? We're at the point where I can get an hour to myself. Because right now, the only time that I have, right, to myself is like now, right, which is the podcast. So I guess I can count this in as like me time or something that I'm doing for myself. And then beyond that, it's about she goes to bed at 8. I try to go to bed at 11 because I'm up for work the next day by like 5:30, right? So it's about 3 hours, but in those 3 hours, it's jam packed of like I'm editing films, I'm writing films, I'm in pre production, like I'm doing stuff for the podcast. So it's not really me time per se, it's like productive time. But hopefully in the next 2, 3 months or so, I get a little bit more of that. What do you do? Because maybe I can learn from you.
Well, first I'm gonna say you're killing it. You're killing it, because yeah, that 4 months is still very early. Um, yeah, for me, well, my baby goes to like kind of like a school daycare in the daytime because and I cocktail at night, so I work all day. Like I work all day
Yeah.
cocktail at night. So I just try to take time to rest. Like I make it like at least an hour. I don't care. Like I can take a nap. I can do whatever I want to do, and I just try to like. I'm still working on my systems. I think everything successful kind of goes off of systems. So I also try to schedule out and just try to be like keep like maneuvering my time management because there are things that I'm doing where I could be doing something else to benefit my time. But I definitely do also like to just read. I like to read a lot to try to like keep my mind, flowing and good and positive. And the gym is really a good outlet for me. That's really my time when I get to go to the gym because I'm doing a lot.
I love that. I'm getting into my workouts right now. We're gonna walk 3 times. Now, mind you, I was a health nut. I was working out 5 days a week. I was hitting 2 miles a day, plus like ab workouts. So like for me, pregnancy was like a complete fall off. So I'm getting back to myself. I'm not pushing myself to snap back. I think I'll be snapped back by the end of like this coming year. But
Yeah.
I like the working out decreases my stress. So like when I can get back into like jogging, right now I'm walking, getting back into jogging would be great. And hopefully we get there by the end of the year. All right. Well, I've enjoyed talking to you so much. I feel like I learned something. I got some gems from the conversation. Before we hop, definitely shout out your social media because you never know. Not only am I into film, you don't know who's watching, who's listening. You might get booked from this, right? We're gonna go ahead and manifest some blessings going your way. It could be somebody who's got some resources for the cleaning business. We don't know what's gonna happen, so be sure to shout out your social media. Where can people follow you and get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Follow me on Instagram at Journey Girl, which is my baby's name, Journey. So Journey Girl, spelled JourneyGirl.
Great. Appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you for stopping by. And if you are one of the 1,000 moms that I need to talk to, don't hesitate to reach out. Or if you just like enjoy listening, do us a favor. If every single time we have an episode, if everybody listens to the episode, tells 2 people. That's it. Just 2 people about the pod. Wait to see where we end up being at with our numbers by the end of the year. I know it's going to be a great year. We're going to be able to help so many people. So I appreciate you guys. Until next time, thank you for joining us, Ashley.
Thank you.